everyone, I'm really excited about today's video. I'm sharing with you what's in my travel art kit. So I recently updated my kit because I went away on holidays, and this collection of supplies is a collection that I'm really excited about. It's functional, it's versatile, and as I talk through what I've included in the video, I'm also going to share a few alternative options so that you can use this as inspiration to curate your own art kit that suits the style of art that you make. So I have everything in front of me, and all of these supplies fit in this plastic Tupperware container. So it's not the most beautiful container. I've certainly got things in my studio that are much more aesthetic, baskets, boxes, and things like that. But this is really practical, and I put this in my suitcase. It held everything together. It's waterproof. It's definitely a good option if you're going to be taking your supplies out and about with you. It's also a really easy container to put on your dining table, your desk, or something like that, and then pack things up at the end of the day if you need to. So it's a really good size. So this is a 3-litre container, and inside of here I have a couple of other things that I use in order to organise the supplies. I've just got a sandwich bag which I put my threads into, and also this little pencil case. This was a freebie that I got when I purchased a perfume, and I just kept it because I thought it would be handy for putting art supplies in. So that's what everything goes into, and now I'll run through what I've included and why. So to start with, I wanted to have a sketchbook, and I wanted something small. So I have this little sketchbook. It's a mixed media sketchbook by Claire Fontaine Goldline. And what I love about this is that it has a smooth side to the paper as well as a textured side. It's a medium weight, and it's a good all-rounder paper. So you can use it with a variety of supplies, watercolor, pens, pastels, and it's a nice compact size as well. So I always go for a smaller size sketchbook when I am going to be traveling, particularly if space is of a premium and I don't want to bring anything too heavy as well. So this sketchbook here is a sketchbook that I love to use with a wide variety of supplies. So I often put collage in it, stitching, pens, and I combine different layers together. So that's why what you'll see in front of you is very much a mixed media toolkit. So let's start with the paints. So for this particular trip, I decided to bring my Schminky watercolor set. So this is a decent size set. It's got a lot of mixing capacity, but I brought it in particular because I really like the tray. This has an enamel tray that I can use as a mixing palette. This is probably the best watercolor set I have as far as having areas to mix. But if you did want something smaller, you could go with a smaller set and even a lighter weight set. So some of the sets that I have are plastic, so it's going to weigh even less. So some examples of that would be this little Daniel Smith set, much smaller and more compact. I also have some affordable options too. So this is a little Van Gogh set. They all have mixing trays. I just particularly like working on the tin enamel kind of tray rather than the plastic, but certainly these are lighter. So there's a Van Gogh one there, and this is the Winsor & Newton Cotman, which is very similar. These are all very good watercolor sets with nice vibrant colors. So as far as brushes go, I brought along some of my favorite brushes. I have a large 1-inch oval wash brush by Princeton. This is a brush that I use all the time for painting backgrounds in my sketchbook. So it's nice to have something large so that you can put down paint quickly. And then I have a nice versatile set that has a good range of different size brushes in it. This is the Velvet Touch range, which is suitable for watercolor, acrylic, or oil. I primarily use them with watercolor, and it has a nice range of sizes, particularly sizes that I use frequently in my art. So it has a round size 4, a round size 8, a flat brush, and an angle shader as well. So really nice little set. Where I was staying, I knew that I would be able to put water in a glass or a cup, so I didn't need to worry about that. But if you are going out on location and you do need to bring some water in order to wash your brushes and rinse them off, then one suggestion I have is that you could bring along some of these brushes. These are made by Pentel. I think this one might be a different brand, but all of them work in the same way. You can fill the brush up, so it has a water container part. You pop your water in there, and then you can use it, you can squeeze the water out as you go. You just pump it where it says push, and that will release some water out. So I used to use these all the time, especially when I first started making art. In fact, putting this art kit together has brought back a lot of memories of making art when my children were young, making art at the kitchen table. So even if you aren't traveling or planning on going on a trip outside and doing some work on location, this type of compact kit can really give your creativity a boost and enable you to make art when sometimes making art feels really hard and you don't have time. So if you are struggling with that at the moment, I would highly recommend just taking some time out to curate an art kit that feels really interesting, fun, exciting, but not overwhelming. So that's the brushes side of things. Another option I quite like for putting base layers down in my sketchbook is using water-soluble supplies. So I have here a recent acquisition for me as far as supplies, these Woody 3-in-1 pencils. So these are great because they have a hard casing, so they're not as messy as using something like a Neocolor 2 pastel or an oil pastel. And I do tend to choose supplies that aren't quite as messy when I am putting together a kit like this. So I like these. They're also big, so that means that you can quite quickly get a base layer down in your sketchbook and just get some color on the page. So that's a nice option, and you can use them dry or wet. So whenever I'm looking at supplies, I'm looking at how can I get the most out of the supply, which supplies have dual purposes, because they are really good when you have a limited amount of space. And as far as choosing the colors, I just focus in on the colors that are interesting and exciting to me and perhaps fit in with what I'm working on at the moment or the style that I'm working on, because I know that I can mix any colors that I want with my watercolor set because I have all the primary colors in there and plenty of earth tones. So when it comes to picking the other types of supplies that I usually mix less and I use them as they are, then I just go for the colors that I want to at the time. And it's helpful to actually spend some time swatching out what you are putting in your kit, just so that you can see exactly what those colors are and know that you have a good range and you have the kind of colors that you are looking for. So moving on to adding in mixed media elements, and I have a few different options here. I really like combining collage papers in my sketchbooks. So I have a selection of papers that I have chosen, and these fit really well into that container that I showed you at the beginning. And I have a variety. So I have some papers that I have painted on myself, and I've used my jelly plate to create marks and designs, but I also have some that I picked up from the art shop, and I have some designs that are already on there. And these can be great because they can just inspire ideas when you are working in your sketchbook. And I often find that just by shuffling through my papers, sticking a few papers down on the page, adding a bit of paint, and then the rest just builds from there. So this is a really good starting point. And I like to keep it simple and either tear the paper to get the shapes or just cut out simple shapes with a pair of scissors. And I recently ordered these Tim Holtz Ionic scissors, and they're really nice and small, so they fit in the art kit, but they're also amazing scissors. So that's a really handy tool to have. I also keep it simple in the sense that I use a glue stick rather than bringing a gel medium or Mod Podge or something like that. This is just a really easy way to get papers down. And if I want to smooth the papers out a little bit, I use this distress brush. This is also from Tim Holtz. I love these for pushing paper around on the page and just pushing out those air bubbles. It's also another option as far as getting paint down in a quick way, because it's a larger brush. So it's about a 1 inch or a little bit bigger than an inch, I would say, across. So these two are really good for those base layers. I also like to just have ordinary graphite pencil, an eraser, and pencil sharpeners because I use these pencil sharpeners for the ink tints and the graphite that I bring, but also I have another larger pencil sharpener which sharpens these woody crayons. So you can actually sharpen them up and keep them going so they don't get blunt. So with my graphite pencils, I just have two options here. These are the Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils, and I have an HB and a 4B. So the HB is just a very standard pencil and the 4B is just a little bit softer. So in the middle here, I have some embroidery thread, and this can also be a really fun way to kickstart your pages and just to get your hands moving, is that you can actually add some stitched elements into your sketchbooks. And I've got a range of colors that I really like here, a couple of embroidery needles, some cotton as well, and then I have one of these sewing awls, and this makes it a lot easier to punch holes into your sketchbook pages and thread the thread through the holes and create some interesting designs. You do not need to have any stitching skills to do this. You can simply just stab a few holes, pull the thread through, weave it around, and even just let it go a little bit crazy and see what you come up with. So really fun supply to add into your toolkit. And then moving on, we have my mark making pens and pencils. I have my favorites here, the Posca pens, and I have a range of colors and also a range of nib sizes. So the biggest one I have here is the PC5M, which is up to 2.5 millimeters. So it's not huge, you can get bigger ones, but this is a good size for me in my quite small sketchbook. And then I also have some medium size and some fine ones as well. And I've got a range of really nice colors here. Let me just quickly run through what I have. So I have the beige, the khaki green, brown, white. What do we got? What's this one called? Blue. I guess this is probably light blue. Yep, light blue and violet. So you can just pick a few colors based on what color preferences you are into at the moment. You don't necessarily need to bring along a full kit, and you might want to stick with a color theme, or you might want to try and make sure you have a good range through all your different supplies. So you might have different colors in your pens to what you have in your crayons and your pencils, and in that way you get a good range of colors. Over here I have my fine liners. These are permanent once dry and waterproof. They are from Pigma Micron, and I have them in 3 different sizes. I quite like doing botanical line drawing, so it's something I do like to bring along. And the sizes that I have are 0.5, which is my go-to size. Then I have a 0.2, which is a little bit finer. It's good for adding little details into botanicals. And then a 0.8, which is a bit thicker. And then I have a few pencils, and I only have a handful. I mainly use pencils in my backgrounds, and I quite like using them in wet paint. So I drag them through wet paint, or I dip them into water to get interesting effects. They are water soluble again, so they do turn into paint when you add water, but you can also use them dry. The colors that I have chosen for these pencils are mainly neutral colors. So I have Ionian green, amber, deep indigo, dark chocolate, and willow. And I actually went and had a look to see what were some of my most used colors and picked the pencils that are really small, because I know that they are ones that I reach for a lot. But on the flip side of that, if you are looking to challenge yourself and perhaps try out a different color direction, you might go the opposite way and actually choose the pencils in a set or the pastels in a set that you have barely touched and then bring them into your kit. And because your kit is actually quite small and limited in a way, you will probably find that you use them more than you would if you were in your normal setup where you have full access to your supplies. So having a limited or curated kit is a really good way to build creative muscle. I find that this is something that I go back to again and again, particularly during busy times or times when I am struggling to find my creativity. If I want to get out of a bit of a funk, this is a really, really good way to do it. And I find by starting with loose backgrounds and incorporating elements like collage and stitching, it seems to overcome the overthinking mind. So I don't go into the page worrying too much about the outcome. I just start by building up elements that have textural details, interesting color combinations, and take it from there. So for that reason, it's one of my biggest suggestions for anyone who is looking to stay creative on a consistent basis. Put together an art kit, leave it somewhere where you will use it, bring it to different locations, and convince yourself that creativity can be done in short bursts, and you'll do that by using the kit and filling up a sketchbook. So this is my kit, and now I'm going to pack it up so you can see how easily it fits into the container. If there's something I've missed, or maybe something that you would put in your own art kit, leave it in the comments. I'd love to see how you curate your mixed media supplies. I really hope you've enjoyed this video.